Welcome to the Pumpkin Patch Carnival here at the Community Center, another great event put on by Community and Rec each and every year. Let's check it out.
Hi, Jody Wambeck with the Willmar Early Childhood Family Programs and Willmar Early Childhood Initiative here at the 9th Annual Family Night at the Fire Station. I am joined today by Chief Gary Hendrickson. Gary, it is so nice to have you here. Thanks so much for being here. Tell us a little bit about the Family Night at the Fire Station. This is your second year, but tell us a little bit about why we do this and what great things it brings to the community.
Like I said, this is my second year doing this. Before I came, we kind of had just story time, and I wanted to expand it so we could have participation at all ages. So instead of just the little kids hearing a story, we have a lot of things here to promote fire safety. This is Fire Safety Week. We try to promote fire safety every year through this event. This year we had a bunch of fire extinguisher demos, as well as a kitchen fire demonstration, as well as just a bunch of activities to promote safety in that. This year's motto for Fire Safety Week is smoke detectors. Want to make sure that we're checking our smoke detectors at least once a month for operation, and then changing our batteries every 6 months daylight savings time, so either spring ahead or fall back.
You know, and in the past, it has been a good focus on fire safety as well as literacy. We still do the books, and you talked about some of the great things that we've had here. We also had the Life Length helicopter, correct?
Yes, we did.
And then we have the bouncy house, and we have some fun things that the kids are doing with the fire hose. What was that about?
That gives them an opportunity. Everyone wants to know kind of how it is to pick up the hose and shoot water. So this is an opportunity for the kids. We have a house that promotes kind of fire and smoke coming out of the windows. It gives them the opportunity to kind of pick up the hose and feel how it is for us when we go in and fight a fire.
And we also have resource tables here, and we have public health and the Willmar Public Schools, but also the Fire Association is here, and they're giving out a bag of goodies too, correct?
Yep, the Firefighters Association is a big supporter of this event. This year we've got a water bottle, coloring book, a calendar, and then we're also giving away some bikes to some kids at the end of this evening. But it's an opportunity for them to give back to the community. We have our pancake feed during Willmar Fest, and then we do a couple other fundraisers throughout the year. So this is an opportunity for them to give back to the community as well.
Home Depot is also here, and they were a big hit last year. What is it that they're doing this year? It looks like the kids are having a great time.
Yeah, where I came from in the Metro, we invited Home Depot. Home Depot actually from the State Fire Chiefs Association is a big supporter this year as well for Fire Safety Week. So they actually have different things to build. I believe my son built a car tonight, a race car. They got a sailboat, a birdhouse, a few other things. So the kids enjoy doing that, and we enjoy having them as a part of the event.
Great. Gary, tell us, where are we right now?
Right now we're actually atop of our 100-foot ladder. It's one of our platforms. We're not quite 100 feet up. We're probably up about half the distance that it can take us up right now. But kind of a cool venue to do an interviews, and the beautiful sunset that we have tonight. So
we're going to head down now, and then we're going to go talk to Cheryl Iverson from the Early Childhood Family Ed program, because we have a great thing happening this year with our ECFE. I am joined by Cheryl Iverson, who is the ECFE parent educator here in Willmar. Cheryl, tell us, what is ECFE?
Stands for Early Childhood Family Education, where parents are their children's first teachers.
And when a parent comes to a traditional ECFE class, what does that look like?
Usually the parents and children play together in designated learning stations for a few minutes. Parents come with me and talk about different parenting issues that they're all interested in, like discipline or nutrition or ways of having fun with their kids, getting them ready for kindergarten.
And we talked a little bit about traditional ECFE. In Willmar, we do some non-traditional things as well. Tell us a little bit about the outreach that we do here in Willmar.
Well, we do events like this that are open to the public where everybody can come with their young children. And today we're making birthday cakes to celebrate 30 years of ECFE in Willmar. I also go out and teach parenting at the jail. I work at the women's shelter. I go to parents' homes. I guess wherever there's an interest, we try and go. Also to the library. Our baby class is very popular right now. About 20 families are coming, and we read and play musical instruments and do finger plays.
Cheryl, you said something about the 30th birthday for ECFE. In the state of Minnesota, ECFE has been around for 40 years.
That's right.
But in Willmar, it has been 30.
30 years.
So what is it we're doing here in Willmar to celebrate that milestone?
Well, we've got a birthday card kids can sign, and at Jefferson School there's a big banner up on the wall. So anybody who's participated over the last 30 years can come write a birthday message. Kids are making Play-Doh birthday cakes and having a good time.
Great. Cheryl, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We are here at the WOW event again at the fire station, and our next WOW event is going to be November 13th in Pennock, and that will be hosted by the Growmobile Empower, and I hope that we see you out there as well. You are watching Do You Know?
Good afternoon, this is Susan Matson, Kandiyohi County Master Gardener, and this afternoon I'm out on the hillside with Deb and Brent Larson, and behind me, or behind us, you can see their beehives. They are makers of honey and sellers, and they also raise bees. So I'm going to turn the mic over to Brent, and he'll explain a little bit about having the beehives here and how they start out with them in the spring, and then a little bit about food for the bees.
Well, in the springtime, depending upon the hives, if we sometimes buy them from California, they'll come in what's called a nuke box, and a nuke box is about half the size of the bottom box there, and there'll be what's called five frames in there with a queen. And what we do is we install the queen and the 5 frames into the bottom box right there. And typically you only have 2 boxes on there in the early spring, so they can't build up because there's nothing to pollinate or to bring back nectar or any pollen back to the hive. So we have to feed them in early April to about almost the end of April. We'll feed them pollen patties, sugar water. There's a couple different proteins that you can feed the bees to keep them alive in April as they build up. Then in about the end of April, mid-May, what we'll do is we'll put a 3rd box on there that they'll start to clean out, they'll start to build in there, and then end of May, early June is when you'll get a lot of things that start to blossom. You have apples that are starting to blossom, you'll have dandelions are great for bees, sedum, a lot of wildflowers. Clover is a big one out here. The yellow, white, red clovers, as we try to get those to grow. And then the bees, well, feed on those to bring back nectar and pollen into that third box to start to store it up. And they'll eat everything they get until about mid-July. And then after that, they'll start storing away. In the fourth box, we'll put the fourth and fifth box on sometimes, and then that's where they'll start processing start to make honey in those boxes for their overwinter on it.
So a couple more questions I just thought of. One would be, well, how does temperature affect bees? For instance, as it gets colder now, nights are getting colder, and then as we get into winter, do they stay around? The other thing is, do you have to continue to feed them during the winter?
Typically, large beekeepers, well, they'll run anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 hives. We run about 30 to 50. They'll send their hives to California, to Texas, to pollinate the orchards out there. What we do is, if a hive is strong enough, if we feel it's going to make it through the winter, we'll keep about 40 to 50 pounds of honey in the hive. And what we'll do is we'll get them down. If you notice on the end one down there, it's down to about 3 boxes. Over here it's about 2 or 3 boxes. We'll get the bees down to there with about 40 or 50 pounds of honey, because what we want to do is, the colder it gets, the less they'll come out of the hive. They fly out when it's about 55 to 60 degrees. Typically they won't come out if it gets colder than that. If it gets warmer, then they start coming out to look for something to bring back to the hive. And so they'll eat that honey in the wintertime. As long as they can move around the hive, they'll stay in a small cluster with the queen in the middle. Typically, that cluster has to stay at about 90 degrees all winter long to keep the queen alive, to keep her moving in the hive. So they'll slowly move throughout the hive all winter long to find honey. If they can't find honey in the hive, they may be 1 frame away from it, but they can't get over there because it's too cold, and then they'll end up starving to death.
Yeah, so I was just wondering about replacing the bees if they didn't make it through the winter, or what about the queen? Does she usually make it through the winter if she can move around?
If she can move around, if they can keep her alive, typically a queen will last up to 2 years on it, so she'll stay around. A worker bee typically will last anywhere from 30 to 60 days, depending upon the time of year. About 99% of the hive is worker bees, are female bees. 1% is about the males, which are the drones. And all the drones in late fall like this, they get kicked out of the hive because they don't have a use for them. The only thing that the drone is used for is to mate with the queen. And then after that's done, they really don't have a purpose anymore. So come late fall, they get kicked out of the hive.
So do they just lay on the ground then when they're kicked out, or do they fly away, or what do they do?
Well, they're not allowed back into the hive, so they'll just freeze out and die. Yeah. It's a tough way to go for a male on there. Yeah.
They know their purpose, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
And let's see, then another question I would have before we go inside to look at the honey is, how do you get the honey out of there in a safe way without getting stung? Then you take it out in the sheets. I've seen pictures of in the frames, okay. And so at least I've seen other pictures of beehives where they're taken out in the frames.
Typically, we'll try to take honey out in about the end of August, early September is when we'll start taking honey out, depending upon. To take the honey out of the frames, out of the supers, out of the top supers, you have to make sure that it's capped. And the bees will work the honey down to a certain water content. And once they get it to the right content, then they'll cap it over, or else they'll keep it open and they'll fanning in the hive to reduce the moisture of the honey in there. So once they get it to the right consistency that they want it, then they'll cap it over. So that's when you want to take it out. Because if you take honey out of the hive too early and it's not capped, it can become rancid. And so you want to avoid that. Moisture and water is the only thing that really destroys honey. So you have to wait. And to get the honey out of the hive, typically what we'll do is we'll smoke the hive a little bit. We'll put some smoke up front with them. The smoke gets them disorientated. They'll run back into the hive. A lot of times they'll gorge themselves on honey on there, and they almost act like they're drunk, and so they can't really do a lot. You do get stung often when you do take the honey out of the hive, because it's kind of like ripping open your house and going in there, and so they do become agitated. And it depends upon the hive. It depends upon the queen's characteristics. On her makeup, if she's a docile queen, a lot of times the bees in that hive will be docile, but if she's kind of an aggressive queen, she passes those traits on to all the other bees in there, so they're a lot more aggressive. At times, there's some hives that you can walk up to, you can open them up, you can look in there. There's other hives that you can't get close to. They'll just come out and they'll just come right after you then, depending upon what the queen's makeup is, her genetics.
Well, we're going to go inside now, and we're going to look at the area where the honey is processed. And I'd also like Brent and Deb to talk a little bit about what the average person can do to encourage and promote pollinators in their yard. I know that is a question, and people will be thinking forward the next year about what they can plant. And so let's talk a little bit about that before we close. All right, we're inside now. In the area where the honey is processed, and I will turn this over to Brent and Deb so they can explain the different pieces of equipment that are behind us. You'll notice to the right of me there's something that's full of bees. Brent has said he will not release the bees in the building.
No, this is an observation hive that we use at the farmers market, and we've also used this for various school events where we come in and talk about bees. And here you'll have a lot of the worker bees are in here. And I don't know if you can see or not, but in the far corner is some honey that is actually capped right there. And then inside the frame here, there's actually honey that's not capped, and that's what they're kind of feeding on right now while they're inside there. So this is really kind of nice, kind of a great teaching tool for like children and adults that come up and want to know more about bees and pollinators and what they're all about on there.
Okay. All right, moving on, we have a large framed circular cylindrical piece of equipment, and I'll let Brent and Deb talk a little bit about what that's used for.
It's what we use this for. It's called a spinner. It spins out the honey from the frames. When we bring in the frames from outside, typically they'll look somewhat like this, but they'll be full of honey on here. We have to take the honey. We cut the frame open over this. We'll take off all the wax on the outside of here, and then this will go inside of here, and it typically will hold up anywhere from 18 to 12 frames. Then what it does, it spins the honey so fast, the centrifugal force will pull the honey out of the frame, and it throws it against the side of here, and then it comes out down here on the bottom. And what we usually do is we'll have a 5-gallon bucket down here with various strainers on it, because when the honey is spun like this, you have to strain it, because you'll still have bee particles in there, you'll have legs in there, you'll have bees in there, just a lot of different material that will come out. So you have to strain the honey a couple of times to get it down to where you want it then. This is something that we had talked about outside about when getting the honey out or working with the bees. Is usually typically we'll use a smoker, and this is an electric, it's a battery operated smoker, I'm sorry, on here, and it really throws out the smoke. When we throw out a lot of smoke on them, again, it kind of keeps them off of you and it keeps them disorientated, but you don't want to overdo it with them or put too much heat on them at the same time with it on there. This is a capping tank right here. This is one of two of them that we have. In here, when we cut the frame open, the cappings will fall into here, and there's still quite a bit of honey in the cappings here, and so this will drain through here, and then we'll pick up more honey on the bottom here once we release it from there. The cappings are typically used for candle making, soap. People will pick them up for that. I've also had a gentleman buy some once because he was bear hunting, and he used it as a bait for bear hunting with it on there.
I know I've seen a lot of products now that have honey in them. Yeah, and so I'm just wondering what advantages are there to using products that have honey, because I mean I can't really tell using a honey product as versus a non-honey.
Do you want to answer that?
I just think it's a natural product. You know, everything you put on your skin, on your lips, is going to absorb into your skin. So I think it's just people are wanting the natural product. I think that's it.
Right, and we now get to close to the end product here, and there's several varieties of honey that are behind Brent, and as they mentioned, the different colors honey has to do with the flowers that are used to pollinate.
Okay. Typically, this type of honey here, that's a lot clearer. The clearer the honey is, typically the sweeter it will be. The honey that I'm holding is probably we've taken off earlier in the year, in early August, mid-August. This honey, they've probably run more like basswood, clover, that type of flower, that type of tree, apple trees on there that will have a more of a pure color in it. And then what happens is, as the fall goes on, they will feed, when those plants are done, like the apple trees, the dandelions, the clovers all done, they'll go more on wildflowers, sedum, things that you'll have planted around your house. And then what happens is, because it's a darker flower, your honey will also come out darker. The darker it is, the stronger the flavor it'll have. The lighter the honey is, the sweeter it'll have. It's all sweet, but just if you notice that it's a darker honey, it's going to be a little bit more stronger flavor-wise on there. Typically also what will happen is, if you don't heat up your honey, it's going to crystallize on you. And what will happen is when the honey crystallizes, it's still good. All you need to do is just warm up a pan of water, not boiling hot, just warm enough to set it in, and after a little while it will come back to you and there'll be a liquid form in there.
But not in the microwave.
Do not use the microwave for it. That will kill out everything in it.
All right, my last questions will be what people would like to plant in their gardens that would enable pollinators to survive. I know that there's been a lot of articles and questions about that, and especially since it will affect our food supply in the future if we don't encourage pollinators. They're affected by disease, they're affected by chemicals that are being used, and if we can avoid some of those things, what should we be planting?
Well, we planted alfalfa and clover at our farm, the white and the pink clover. Flowering crab apple trees are phenomenal. They'll just be buzzing all spring. Apple trees, any of the fruit trees. Sedum, I don't know if you're familiar with the sedum, but they'll be full this time of year. You think of anything else? Basswood, wildflowers, any of the flowers. We also heard an interesting thing about viney vegetables like squash. That if you, how did that go?
If they're, okay, with squash plants, watermelons, with vines, if the bees aren't in there before 9 or 9:30 in the morning, you typically don't get a crop. For some reason, bees will be in there in the early morning on vine plants, is what we're told at the farmer's market by people that grow that type of vegetables. They notice if the bees are in there early in the morning, they'll have a pretty good crop. If they don't come in early, they don't get much for a crop on it. Yeah. One of the things too is that people can do in their yards is just take a section out and don't mow it, and let it go into clover. Dandelions are great for pollinators. You'll see like golf courses and these lawns that are immaculate. Well, the problem is for a pollinator, that's nothing more than a desert to them, because there's nothing there for them to feed on, nothing for them to go after. So if you can take a part of your yard and just let it go wild, and put wildflowers in there or other plants, you'll attract them to come in.
Don't use chemicals if you can. Absolutely. No chemicals.
Well, this has been enlightening because it is a wonderful opportunity to view the bees up close. I also want you to look for the Larsons. Brett at the farmer's market always wears his bee suit, which he didn't wear this afternoon, but it's black and yellow over there in the corner. So keep an eye out for the Larsons when you go to the farmer's market and other places they might be selling their honey. And so we will be back next month for our next segment of Do You Know?
Hi, I'm Renee Nolting from United Way of West Central Minnesota, and today I have Trista Hegerberg, who is the Program Director of Harmony Visitation Center, which is one of the United Way's partner agencies. United Way is funding 40 agencies this year, and we're very honored to work with you. And Trista, if you could tell me a little bit about when the Harmony Visitation Center started.
Sure. We have actually been around for 20 years now. So
wonderful. And how far does the program reach with this service territory?
we are the only program agency within 50-mile radius of Willmar, but we also serve families that come from all over the state, we even have families that fly in. So,
can you tell me a little bit about what Harmony Visitation is and how it helps families?
sure. Harmony Visitation is a safe place for children to have visits with their non-custodial parents. So if a family is separated for any reason, we're able to do the supervised visitations there. And then we also do supervised exchanges, which is one party can exchange the children to the other party. If they don't want to have any contact with each other, then they don't, and the children are able to see their parents without any hostility.
I think that's so wonderful to keep families together, and we really appreciate that service in our region. Is there a story that maybe you have that's touched you as you've worked with Harmony Visitation Center?
Oh, there's so many stories. We have gotten several compliments from professionals, from families, stating of how needed Harmony is and how grateful they are to have such a program. But our main thing is on our Harmony shirts that we wear, it's children and then it says Harmony staff. That is our way of being able to identify with the children that if they see somebody with that on, they know that we're safe. And so they're able to come to us if they're not aware of all the different adults in. But a lot of the kids, they've pointed out and they're like, you're safe, I'll come to you. So it's very nice.
That is really cool. This is the Did You Know segment, and thank you to our donors for being a part of this program.
It is Do You Know, and joining us on the telephone is Jody Breicher from the Affiliated Community Medical Center's Health Learning Center. Today, Joe, we're talking about colds and the flu.
Hey, Rudy, it's good to be with you again. Thank you so much for greeting me. This month, we're going to talk about stay healthy during this cold and flu season. It's that time of year again. You're going to get bombarded with a boatload of viruses and germs. Your runny-nosed toddler will want to be held. Your sick coworker will blow their nose and then sit down to use your computer without washing their hands. And a complete stranger will have a coughing fit all over you as you stand in the grocery line. In a year where the flu season has already begun slowly, what can we do? The best way is to prevent catching a cold or flu is these simple preventative measures. The experts agree getting your flu vaccine should be the best, your body's number one defense, but it's not the only thing you should do. Here's some additional tips. Number one, wash your hands frequently after blowing your nose, coughing, sneezing, being around ill people, and especially before you eat. A second thing to think about is avoid sharing objects such as pens, pencils, food, drinking glasses, and personal items. Wash your hands after touching doorknobs, telephones, remote controls, ATMs, elevator buttons, or anything in a public restroom. Frequently clean those items. The third thought is to keep your hands away from your face. It's easy to get infected with the cold and flu virus. All you need to do to come in contact with the virus on the surface and then touch your eyes, nose, or mouth. By washing your hands, you lessen your chance of infection, but it's still a good idea to avoid touching your face as much as possible during the cold and flu season. And fourth, get enough sleep and avoid getting run down. A good night's sleep is essential for good health. Scientists have found that the release of certain hormones during sleep can boost your immune system. So if you're well rested, your body can launch a strong response to annihilate an invading virus before it can make you sick. And fifth, reduce stress. Stress hormones can suppress the immune system. And six, use tissues for coughs and sneezes and dispose of them immediately and appropriately. And seven, eat right and get regular exercise. Any kind of moderate exercise can improve lung and immune function. And finally, avoid crowds and keep your distance from people that you know are ill. And last but not least, if you're already sick, keep the following in mind. Number one, avoid contact with the frail, the very young, and the elderly. And 2, stay home from school or work. Your body was designed to rest during sick periods. That way, it can divert most of its energy into healing you so you can get better faster. Everyone else will thank you for not exposing them.
Joe, very good information to keep in mind. If you have any health-related questions that affect you or your family, feel free to call ACMC's Health Learning Center at 231-5070. Thanks, Joe. We'll talk to you next month.
Thank you so much, Rudy.
Now joining us on the other line is Kathy Torkelson from the Willmar Public Library. Kathy, a lot of things happening this month at the library. Give us the details.
Hi, Rudy. The Children's Book Club is reading The Homework Machine by Dan Gutman this month. Do your kids ever get tired of spending hours and hours and hours on homework every night? Well, that's exactly the predicament that lands 4 fifth graders in a police interrogation room. In this book, there's 4 distinct characters that kids can relate to in one way or another. First off, there's Brenton, who's a genius but kind of spacey, and would be considered an oddball today. He invents a machine that does your homework for you. Now, how sweet is that? A machine that does your homework. Then we have Sam Dawkins, known as Snickwad. What a nickname that is. He got kicked out of his last school, and he has long hair, and he's just a wee bit rebellious. Then there's Judy. She's the smartest kid in the class, and a little Miss Perfect. She, of course, is the teacher's pet. But in this book, she gets in big trouble. Finally, there's Kelsey, who's a poor student, a rebel, who doesn't care about school. She dyes her hair pink. In this book, each character tells their story individually. The homework machine is every kid's fantasy. Is that your dream? When you read what happens to these kids, you might want to do your own homework. Our children's matinees continue to be very popular here at the library with families. Come join us for a 3D animated film which follows lead character Emmett, a completely ordinary Lego minifigure who is identified as the most extraordinary person and the key to saving the Lego universe. Emmett and his friends go on an epic journey to stop the evil Triant, Lord Business. Can you guess what the movie is? Why not join us for popcorn and beverages and see if your guess is correct. Our fall story hour is done, but we are holding a special Thanksgiving story hour. We will read stories, do finger plays, and make a turkey and other crafts. Gobble, gobble. Are you bored at home and want to get out of the house with your baby or toddler? Come join us Thursday mornings at Baby Lapset for stories, finger plays, and music. Afterwards, check out books, socialize, and let the children play in the Smart Play spot. If you work during the day, we offer an evening program, Bringing Stories to Life. We partner with the early childhood and do tons of crafts and activities with the children. So if that works into your schedule, do come.
As always, lots of things going on at the library. If you want more information on these activities or any other programs at the Willmar Public Library, feel free to call 235-3162, or you can check it out online at wilmarpubliclibrary.org. Thanks, Kathy. We'll talk to you next month.
Thanks, Rudy.
You are watching Do You Know?